Warm welcome, everyone, to all of you for joining us on this Thursday evening. Thanks for being here, and especially to Dr. Adriel Trott. Dr. Trott is the Associate Professor of Philosophy and the Philosophy Department Chair, as well as this summer was named the Andrew T. and Ann Ford Chair in the Liberal Arts. She has taught at Wabash since 2013. Her BA is from the College of William and Mary, and her master's and doctorate are from Villanova University. She is the author of Aristotle on the Nature of Community and Aristotle on the Matter of Form, a Feminist Metaphysics of Generation. She qualified for the Boston Marathon in her first ever marathon in California this past December. And with that, Dr. Trott, it's over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Emily. And thank you to all of you for showing up. I was happy to be asked to do this, and I'm flattered that you all would come to hear some things that I have to say about running. I am a philosopher and I'm a runner, so that makes me a philosophical runner. But I kind of think that most runners are philosophical. So I am looking forward to sharing some of the ways that I think that running can give us lessons for life and can serve as an analogy or a metaphor to offer principles that can be useful for how we live in the world. I am teaching a tutorial this semester. So, our freshman tutorials are all on different topics, and mine is on this topic, run for your life. And I have been encouraging students to think about how things that they need to do in order to be good at running can also be things that they can think about to be good at college life and to be good at life in general. So that's where I'm coming from to think about how to organize this. So let me say a little bit about me. I and my running life. I started running when I played field hockey in high school, and I ran in order to be fit for field hockey. And then I went to college, and, I would sometimes go for a run here and there, but I wasn't really a runner until one day a friend asked if I wanted to go for a long, slow run. And I thought this might mean 4 miles. And then 7 miles later, we are making our way back to the dorms, and I was kind of crumbling. And I thought, I need to get in better shape if I want to be able to keep up. So I started running more seriously, and I found that there could be a joy and just a way of relieving anxiety of college life from running. When I graduated from college, I moved to DC. I worked on Capitol Hill for a couple of years. And while I was there, I got to know a woman who was pretty serious about running. And so she taught me more about the things that I needed to be doing to run. I would run on the mall in DC and run by senators early in the morning. I thought that was kind of cool, that there was something about whether we agree with each other, that we kind of shared a commitment to something that we thought was important. And then I moved to, I went to graduate school, and I ran through graduate school, and I started getting into half marathons. I'm from Philadelphia. I went to graduate school in Philadelphia. There's a great race through Philadelphia called the Broad Street Run. And I found myself feeling pretty good about being able to go out and run pretty good times. I probably didn't put the kind of time I should have put into training. But I thought I was busy, and I didn't think about it as something that I could commit to in the way that I feel like I am now. So then I moved to South Texas for my first assistant professorship. I taught at the University of Texas, what was then Pan American, is now the Rio Grande Valley. And while I was there, I started running with a coach who she wanted someone that she could run long distances with. And I was happy to run long with her. And in exchange, she told me more about what I needed to be doing as a runner, that I needed to be putting in tempo runs, and I needed to be doing some speed work. So I started doing much more of that, and I started seeing that make a difference in the times I was able to put up, I think that you could say that heat training is kind of like altitude training. So South Texas, it was over 100 degrees for about 90 days of the year. And I got acclimated to that. I think learning that my body could adapt was important for my running journey. And then when I finally came to Crawfordsville, I was excited about the kinds of races around here and the running community in central Indiana. My PR is from the 2013 Boilermaker in Lafayette, which in the half, which was a great race. It was very cold. And I don't know how, I just was like, I'm going to run and I'll just keep moving faster. And so that was very satisfying. Still trying to get back to that, whatever was happening in the fall of 2013. So during the pandemic, early in the pandemic, I joined a team with virtual team with coaches. I had never really had a coach in the sense of someone to set a plan for me and to tell me I needed to be doing things like strength and mobility. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about this. Think about nutrition, and all the kind of supplemental work that goes into being a good runner. Joining this team made me think about running in a much more purposeful way. And so for the last couple of years, I've been thinking about the kinds of principles that we should be thinking about when we run. So that helped me think about how much the mental game was important, and how having principles that drive you can make you a better runner. But I also think that these principles can make you think about being a better human, a better person. So here I am at the California International Marathon. It's my first marathon. Crossing the start line in some ways was more exciting to me than crossing the finish line, because I just felt this deep sense of awe and joy at being able to do this thing that is very hard, and that I thought I had a plan to do in a way that would bring me my goals. And I just crossed that start line and thought, like, here we go. And I kind of think that I want to say that this is how we should be going into life. Like, we're kind of always at a start line of here we go. So here we go. The lessons that I want to talk about from running are these 5 with a kind of bonus here. Know your why, push your edge, prioritize and goal set, ask yourself, what does the race require? And then think about how to satisfy that. And finally, miles matter. And then I want to talk about dealing with setbacks. So the first one here, know your why. So when I joined this group, one of the things that the coaches kept talking about is that in order for you to be willing to put in the work, you have to have a sense of your why. You have to have a sense of the reason that you're doing this, because that's what's going to get you up early in the morning. That's what's going to keep you going and prevent you from just kind of walking off the track when it gets hard. When I first heard this, I'm a philosopher who works on Aristotle, who is the most teleological of thinkers. And I first heard this, I thought, like, I just want to go run. I don't know if I want to have a why that drives me. But I think I have come around to realizing that this is about having a sense of purpose, and the purpose can just be something like, I want to know what my limits are, or I want to see if I can exceed my limits. And there's a joy and excitement to that keeps me going. So like I said, I'm a philosopher. Aristotle has this idea of there being 4 different causes. And 2 of the causes are the efficient cause or the moving cause, which is what makes something. And it comes from outside of a thing. That it's kind of like, what got you here? What if you ask, like, why are you doing that? And someone's like, well, someone told me to. It's like they're the efficient cause. But if you ask, why are you doing that? And you say, because I want to achieve this, that would be a final cause. And the sense of the know your why that I'm talking about is the final cause. Like, what's driving you that you're going toward? What's the purpose that's pulling you along? And I think it's important to ask what's your purpose and not what's the purpose that other people want for you, because that's not going to get you very far. I don't think it gets you very far in running. I see in my students that they develop purposes that they seem to collect from other people, sometimes their parents, or sometimes, everybody's majoring in this, so that's what I want. And asking them to think about doing the work of having the sense of their purpose, the intrinsic purpose that comes from them, and not the purpose that comes from other things, because that's the purpose that's going to move you. That's the purpose that's going to get you somewhere. So that's the first one, know your why. I'm going to talk a little bit about each of these in terms of running. And then when we kind of talk all together, I'm interested to hear from you all how you think about how these things might be connected to your life or your own running stories and how they're connected. So keep all that in mind and we'll have some time for discussion. So this is Roger Bannister, who broke the 4 minute mile in 1952. His coach said the runner's greatest asset, apart from essential fitness of body, is a cool and calculating brain, allied to confidence and courage. Above all, he must have a will to win. So I think that will to win comes from knowing your why. The second point is push your edge. So I want to first talk about this outside of running. I find that there are those among us who can do okay in life without having to really work very hard. And that's okay. I mean, that is the case often. But I think if you're doing that without putting everything you possibly can into what you're doing, that you're like leaving a lot on the table, that you perhaps want to do more of the work. I see this in students who I know who are good students and don't have to work very hard. But I think, what if you did work hard? What would be happening here if you were working hard? And so I invite them to think about pushing the edge. And I like to think about this around certain workouts where the workout is about finding the edge, about finding, coaches say things like, you need to find a pace at which you can do this workout for an hour at that pace. And I'm always having the hardest time with that kind of a workout, because I'm like, I don't know, like what's going to feel like after an hour that would be enough. I couldn't run anymore. I'm not really sure I know how that feels. I feel like I'm still working on learning in my body how that feels. And I think pushing your edge is always kind of like that you're learning, how does it feel to be at your edge? So in a race, you set up a race plan thinking about what your edge is. And the danger that you're always thinking about is, if I exceed my edge, I won't be able to finish the race. But on the other hand, if you don't push your edge, you won't be able to reach your goals. So that sense of, well, what does it look like for me to push the edge enough so that I can accomplish the task, but that I'm not backing off from the highest possible execution of it? So you all may have heard about Shalane Flanagan's wild, crazy ride last fall when she ran 6 marathons, the 6 world majors in 42 days. She talked about this notion of setting goals that are right at the edge, this is a typo, of what you're capable of. And she called them big, hairy, scary, audacious goals. And I like to think about that, having big, hairy, scary, audacious goals, like being bold with yourself to think about what the edge is. So this is Camille Herron. She's the world record holder in the 100 mile. She ran 100 miles in 12 hours and 41 minutes and 11 seconds in February. So this idea of pushing the edge, I think that Steve Prefontaine, often called Pre, was famous for this line: to give anything less than your best is to sacrifice the gift. And I think pushing your edge, in the sense that I like to think of in life, is about, are you putting everything you possibly can into what you're doing? What would it look like for you to really be doing that? So there's this line from Job: to the furthest limits he searches out. Think about what that might look like for ourselves. Okay, so the third point is prioritize and goal set. So you've set up your why, you have a sense of what's driving you, then you ask yourself, well, what goals will accomplish your why? What are the sub goals that you need that will serve that goal? And I think along the lines of that, you can ask, is what you're doing optional for achieving that goal? Then why are you doing it? So I think this sense of various other tasks and investments that come along, maybe other people want us to be doing them, maybe we feel some kind of responsibility to them, but they're not really connected to the goal. Yeah, I mean, I think sometimes people talk about junk miles, which I know is kind of controversial, but you could think about like, well, why are you running each of these miles? How are they related to the goal that you have? How are they getting you there? Is it something that's really needed to get there or not? I like to think about the exemplars of the people who've had the big goals and who have gotten to them. So this is Hikam El Garange of Morocco, who holds the record for the fastest mile. Might be mispronouncing his name, but 3:43 is the men's record. I mean, it's just mind-boggling. 3:43. So the fourth principle, what does the race require? I like to think about this question. You know, I think the marathon, the marathon always wins. Some people say, the sense of it's a big ask. The race requires a lot of you, and so you're going to have to prepare yourself to be able to go out there and do well, especially if you're trying to have a peak performance. Big goals require big work. So what does it mean to respect the race, to respect the goal? I think I put in 5 20-milers ahead of CIM. I took 2 months off of alcohol before I ran it, tried to do things. I tried to sleep more, various kinds of things that I wanted to do to make sure that I was putting everything into the race that I could. And then also like mental training and developing mantras and having positive self-talk, that what you're saying to yourself, like, yes, you can do this. Envisioning the race. I watched videos of the course and thinking about what it looks like and picturing oneself and how it would feel. As part of the training group that I belong to, the virtual group, we read Dina Castor's book, Let Your Mind Run. Dina Castor talks about gratitude as a practice about changing your mind and putting yourself into a positive place. So, you know, if you think you can't hold 2 thoughts in your mind at the same time, if you're thinking bad thoughts about how you feel, but then you replace that with something, with a way that you can be grateful for it, it changes the way that you're experiencing that. In fact, you know, there's like evidence-based research supporting that this increases your performance. We had a Zoom call with Dina Castor to come talk to us about this. She was amazing. She still set the women, you know, so she held the American record for women for like, I don't know, it was 2006 until just, I think it was it earlier this year or late last year that Kira D'Amato broke it. So a long time. And now she holds the master's record. So impressive. Uh, here's Safan Hassan running the women's world record in the mile, which is 4:14.74. Bill Easton, who was Jack Landy's coach, the guy who was racing to the 4-minute mile with Roger Bannister, said, "You can't flirt with the track, you must marry it." So the last principle here is this idea that miles matter. And this idea is consistency, 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 doing the regular work to achieve the big goals. So early in 2021, in April, I wanted to get to 60-mile weeks so that I could have a sense of what that felt like. I moved to earlier when I was doing that build, I moved to running 6 days a week. I think it's important to have a day off, having a medium long run. But the overall picture is just about showing up week after week, month after month, and year after year, and thinking about how over time you build the capacity for something. You build, in your running, you build aerobic capacity before you think about getting faster. I've heard this described as thinking about how you want to build the car engine. You want to add cylinders to the car engine before you want to try to go faster. So if you're just going faster, it's like you have a lawnmower that you're just trying to, very small engine that you're just trying to move faster. It's not really going to take you very far for very long. So doing the work of what you have to do in order to build the aerobic capacity so that when you turn around and start doing speed work, it can affect what you're able to hold for a longer time. I think the bigger point here is something about how consistency lays the groundwork to achieve big goals. I think we can find that in many aspects of our lives. So I like to find these passages in Shakespeare that you think don't actually seem to be about running, but actually are about running. So I know I'm taking this out of context from Julius Caesar. Now bid me run and I will strive with things impossible. All right, so dealing with setbacks, real talk. I think that this is going to be part of every runner's life and also part of every human's life. There are setbacks. You set big goals for yourself and you will have various kinds of obstacles. So I was supposed to run Chicago next weekend and I had a hamstring injury and I stupidly thought I could just run through that. And I was working with a PT and we were trying to figure out what we could do. And I ran some runs I should not have run. And I just had to stop altogether and I had to stop running for a month and just do some strength work and rebuild. And I ran 32 minutes today. I'm very happy about that. That's the longest I've run in about 6 weeks. And they weren't even in a row. So we all have these setbacks. But I think the thing about setbacks is it's worth recognizing that we're fallible and that we're going to have to deal with those kinds of problems. But we need to find ways to account for, okay, what's happening here? I think that I think that assessing the situation can help you get into terms with what you need to do. And sometimes what you need to do is not do the thing that you're doing to get to your goal. Sometimes you got to take breaks and sometimes you have to reprioritize. But also to deal with that, you can also turn around and work on consistency. So you're thinking about, okay, I want to rebuild. I've been working on being very slow and very careful. My coach was like trying to have me do speed work next week. And I was like, we are not there. I was proud of myself for being the one to say, let's hold back. She was like, I'm okay, I know. So being willing to say, in order to get to the long-term goal, we're going to have to take something easy, and it's maybe not going to feel as satisfying and happy now. So I think that in life, it's important for us to know and address our weaknesses and to think about what it looks like to come back slowly. I was so excited to see Eliud Kipchoge in Berlin break his own world record. I was excited to see him in 2019 break the laboratory conditions to our project. But I think this kind of work on a official course is just so, it's so, there's something about the human spirit that we can see in rejoicing together about what people can do, about what the human body can do. And I think there is something about this shared sense, I think, that runners around the world have about feeling a joy with Kipchoge about what he can do and what it means that there's a sense, I think, of a kind of collective of like, this is possible. So I think that that's also a final takeaway of having a sense of the gratitude for what other people are doing and their great successes that can move us. So Coach Johnson corrected me about Bill Bowerman being the Oregon running coach. So I did want to point that out, but he said this, I think about this often, almost like a mantra: everything you need is already inside. So I'm going to stop with that. I would really like to hear your sense of how these lessons might be at work in your own running lives, or how they might be connected to things you deal with in life.
Coach, go
Appreciate
ahead.
all you said. Hey, everybody.
Hey, Coach.
Go ahead, Coach.
Well, Coach Bowerman was the Oregon University coach. He wasn't a Nike coach. He had a waffle iron and and invented the soul that led to the making of the Nike universe. But he wasn't a Nike man. He was a pioneer. That's my introduction.
Okay.
Well, Adriel, this is Art Morelli. So I'm a coach too. I coach adult runners.
And he was a great coach at Wabash. A great runner.
I ran at Wabash, yeah, but I ran before Coach Johnson joined the coaching staff. So he never got a chance to coach me, or he would have made me better, I know, because he's a great coach. But your talk was phenomenal. It picked up on a lot of the fine points of running and coaching. And, I saw a lot of the things that I use with my athletes, in there. And I don't coach elite athletes. I coach moms and dads, and they're, mainly women in their 40s. And they were never elite runners. They just want to run and be the best they can be. And it's really a joy to coach people like that. They're not making money. They don't pay me. I don't take any money for coaching because I want them to do it for the right reason.
Have you read Stacy Sims' book Roar about training for women and female physiology? If you're coaching a lot of women runners in their 40s, they might find it interesting. You might find it interesting. The group that I was with worked through it.
That'd be good. I've never heard of it, but that doesn't mean anything. Yeah. I thought I've heard of every running book, but.
Oh, can you see it? I don't know, because I have this weird. Oh, the weird background does strange things.
So you're not sitting outside of Center Hall, huh?
In the snow.
Yeah. No, but we
great.
Run races. We run, distances, track distances, and half marathons and marathons, and The real fun, though, the real fun is training. We get together one day a week on Saturday. Those of us who are in San Diego, that's where I live, which is a great place to live if you want to be a runner. But there are people on the team who are in Columbus, Ohio, Philadelphia, all over the place. People that I've met at the various companies that I worked at over the years. I'm retired now, and I can just do this. So yeah, we have quite an eclectic group. But one of the joys of it is, and I know you appreciate this, the people who are in San Diego, when we train on the track one day a week, and it's Saturday morning at 7 a.m. At the local University of San Diego, University of California, San Diego track, so we don't get kicked out. And often we have to climb fences and, cut locks off gates and stuff like that. But we get together for coffee afterwards. And sometimes the coffee can last longer than the workout. Coach Johnson. But we just talk about a lot of the things you had in your talk. And it's really a pleasure to interact with people like that.
I'm big on some of the things you said about visualization. And we had some great teams. I had some great runners. And one of the runners from National High School said, we do visualization, get in a dark room, lay down and listen to music or say things. And boy, that really took us over the top. She said something about having a setback. Well, a setback is a setup for a comeback.
Oh, I like that.
And we used to say the mind tends to lean towards its most dominant thought. And you bring about what you think about. And then when the visualization, we used to use the term VBIA, vivid visualization that you, with imagination that you put into action. And when we got a big meet, we'd have the guys lay down, shut their eyes, and have we been to the course before? They visualize the first mile, the second mile, and the third mile, and what they're going to do at those points. And I want to tell you something. I don't want to hog the session. Calvin was our nemesis for years, and they were supposed to go to the national meet. Only one team could advance because our region did poorly the year before. Only one team could advance. And we had a kid that was a great runner. He transferred to Calvin. And they were supposed to beat us, but we had a philosophy from a high school coach about the swan, the geese. Did the geese fly in formation? And formation allows the whole group to go 70% faster and further. And if one gets out of line, another one goes down and checks on it. So we always used to set up our events. Our first three, we had three great runners. They were part of that, and we had a formation. And at this meet, I can't help from keep from laughing. You have to imagine this. We're not supposed to win. This kid had transferred to Calvin, and his whole family had bought plane tickets to go back to New York State. And Derek Fichetti, whose son graduated from here a year ago, and he's a blood doctor up in the Notre Dame area. And we talked about geese, fly like the geese. Now use your imagination. We were taking our sweats off in the box. Cold, windy, November day. And Fichetti says, Coach, look. And I look up in the sky. Now, picture this now. Over our box, fly the geese fly over, all right? But they fly over in such a way that the overlaying V's made a W.
Oh my God.
And then another geese over here made a V. And we said, Wabash victory. And it came to fruition. We beat the team we wasn't supposed to beat. We left them home and went to the Nationals and came in sixth.
That's great. I want to say that I've been trying to get students to think about how that visualization can work beyond running in
Okay.
like what they have anxiety over before a test, that they can think,
Or
how do I picture myself being successful here? How do I remember everything that like I recall? I have confidence because I know I put this work into it. So I can think about how I'm ready for this. And I can picture myself at the exam, knowing the answers. I think that that can help them too.
Well, on the Olympic staff, we had a couple of sports psychologists did a good job. And they would have guys to almost write a script. What would your day be like? What would you want to happen here? And then they had a trifold. You fold the paper in 3 parts. And as you're practicing, you're going to things, well, this is what happened on the first column. This is how I responded in the second column. And this is how I'm going to respond the next column.
Nice.
And they had a guy that wasn't supposed to make the Olympic team as a triple jump, ranked like 6th. But he wrote the scripts and he followed it to a T. And he got a spot on the Olympic staff because he had willed and grilled what it was going to be like and how he was going to perform, and it came to fruition. So it works sometimes. The other thing we had a problem with the Olympic staff is some of the athletes had PC, and the guys call that performance constipation. They knew they were capable of more, but for some reason, something got in their mind, and this lean towards a negative bent when they were thinking about things. So I'll shut up and let somebody else talk.
Yeah, I'd love to hear from others about your running experiences or how you think these things connect to life.
Well, this is Art again. Running helps you understand and appreciate that you can do things that you don't think you can do.
Wow.
Everybody can do the things they think they can do. But to be able to do things that you don't think you can do takes a lot of work and a lot of training and mental training and physical training. And that's the biggest job of a coach, I think, is to motivate the athlete to do the things they don't think they can do. You agree, Coach?
Can I
Yeah,
get
but
some
is it-
other voices? I would love to hear from some other
I'm saying,
people.
who else is out there?
Well, here, I'll say something,
Very good.
because I like what Art had said earlier about working with people in their 40s and whatnot. And I'm pretty sure Coach Johnson doesn't remember me from back in 1996, but I ran for him for 1 year, cross country, and then got hurt during track.
Okay.
And dating back to my high school years, that was I got my 3rd stress fracture in about 3 years.
Wow.
So I quit running, and I spent my sophomore, junior, and senior year smoking cigarettes around campus and dodging Coach Johnson's critical look and his criticisms and everything else. And yeah, that was but I came to Wabash the year after the Three Amigos were there. So that's
Oh, wow. Great.
so that was, it was a while back. And then I rediscovered running 25 years later when I was 41. So 3 years ago, I started running again.
Well, you look
And
fit.
what Art was saying about coaching these older people and stuff like that. I mean, it's never too late to discover everything that you can do and discover how much you can push yourself. I mean, everybody's like, oh, you're that over the hill at 40, but I'm so much fitter and happier and healthier and everything than I was 10 years ago or 15 years ago. Now that I'm running a lot. And yeah,
good.
it's just never, you just got to never think of yourself as being too old to be able to just tackle all of this and challenge yourself with all of this and everything.
Yeah.
Chris McDougall, in his book Born to Run, which I know is controversial, but he said he found some statistic about I think you peak maybe at 19 and then you peak again at like 65. So it's like, oh, I feel like I'm also like running harder and more than I ever have before, and better, running smarter than I ever have before. I'm 46. So I'm like, yeah, I got 20 years before I'm peaking.
Oh, Professor, this is Tom Boyer, and let's say hi to Coach Johnson.
Hey, Tom, you ran for us.
Yes, I was going to say I ran for coach for 2 years, but I realized that's not really the way it was. I had the privilege of being under his tutelage for 2 years, and actually for a lifetime, and I really appreciate that. But I wanted to touch, you mentioned something about age. I'm 67. I ran until my mid-50s and just aches and pains took over and got into bicycling. And I do a lot of road work and things like that. But when you were talking about earlier on about limits, the one thing I've learned in the last couple of years is to look at those limits, go as close as I can, but don't try to go past them. Because one of my goals is to be able to get on the bike tomorrow. And so whether it's a hamstring or shin splints or whatever, it's fun to push yourself as far as you can. But one thing I've learned over the last few years is know where that edge is and maybe give it a little healthy respect.
Yeah, listen
But
to
Well,
your body.
I mean, it's interesting that you say it that way because I
Listen
think
to your
that
body.
I have often thought like, oh, if that hurts, I shouldn't do it. One of the ways that's changed for me is that now I think, what kind of support do I need for that to stop hurting? So I think I have sought out like physical therapists or like more mobility work, or more strength kind of work in order to not just treat that as it's always going to be, that's the limit, but think, what do I need to do around it to make it no longer a limit? I think that not to say that there are not limits. We all are embodied creatures who have limits. So I respect that. But I also kind of want to think about what it looks like to keep building one's strength and power.
Good. Makes sense. I don't disagree.
Who else is out there? I have a question.
AJ.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, hey everybody. So yeah, to Tom's point, and to your point too, Dr. Trott, for me, especially having played football at Wabash and the way we push ourselves in the weight room, this after I graduated, I always had this voice in my head, whether through my teammates or my coaches, just to always push to my limits. And so what's interesting is that, to Tom's point, I had this anxiety before because I started running recently, and especially after talking to Coach Johnson and Coach Morgan when I went back as I'm working for the school to like learn what form is and learn all these different things that I never realized I was never really taught to run. I just kind of did it in high school and college, but now that I'm actually enjoying it, but I would start to get this crippling anxiety because I knew those voices in my mind were gonna have me push myself to the limit, and even though I hate doing it, but there's this obsessive need to push myself to the limit every time. But when I learned to start giving myself grace and to say, if I hit my limit today, that's cool. If I go out there and want to jog instead of run, that's cool too. And then I find that oftentimes when I get out there and remove the stress from myself, that I can push myself for the fun of it. So pushing myself not to meet my goals or to try to get to my goal in a straight line, but just to push myself because I just enjoy the mechanics of running. So that's been interesting. So when I take the pressure off myself, I have been able to push to my limits most of the time because I'm actually I found a way to, I guess, balance those voices, to silence some of them and allow my inner voice to push me as opposed to trying to meet the needs and of a former life that I used to have, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Have fun.
Feel the joy. I agree.
You talked about being stressed. We used to run with happy feet. You find a rhythm and run with happy feet. And remember, in cross country, that guy that's 10 meters ahead of you is just as tired as you are at the point of the race. Just smile going by.
I also like to talk about things like, so I had my running tutorial do this exercise with like running form. You may have heard of like chi running form. So it's like thinking about having your body tall and lean, like standing up as high as you can, placing your ankles over your hips and your shoulders over your hips. No, not your ankles over your hips over your ankles and your shoulders over your hips. And then like tall neck, like high stretched neck. And then having your abs tight and feeling like your hips are kind of tilted forward so that you're using your abs, and then falling forward. And then as you fall, just letting your feet kind of catch you, and then you start running. And then I had them stop and do that like one time all the way around the track. They just kind of like fall and then like run a couple, and then keep trying to do that and work on that. And it, you know, it does all sorts of great things for you. It moves you off your heel striking. It relieves some of the pressure on your hamstrings. It's like really good for you. But I wanted them to think about, there's good form in running. There's also good form in like how you study. Like if you just stare at a piece of paper for 2 hours, that's not good form of studying. Like there are things we know about how to learn, like there are things we know about how to run that make you better at it. So let's talk about those things and let's like do it in a way that is effective. So I don't know if I convinced them, but I made the case.
Who else is out there? When you talk about visualization again, we used to have them visualize so much that it'd be a physical thing. They could feel the Notre Dame course or see the bends and the surroundings on the course. And the positive bit, we used to tell them, when you do as well as we think you're going to do, they just say it's nothing new. It's like deja vu.
That's right.
And burn that into your memory that you are capable of doing better. And Professor doing really well, running all these meets, and that's the individual. But in cross country, we used to try to bring people along as a team or a pack. And sometimes we'd have them talk. And sometimes somebody had to wait for somebody to encourage them to come along. So that happens. And when coaching, we used to have some really great runners. And their easy day, Professor, the athletes that weren't as talented would try to run with the great athletes on the easy day, and that became a hard day for them. So everybody has to know their easy day, because the next day will really be hard.
That's one thing I didn't talk about, but I like to think about as a kind of mantra of like run your own race.
Yeah. Well, you haven't heard our mantra yet, and I'll send it to you. But when we had those great teams, we used to get together and shout as loud as we can. The will to win begins within.
Oh, nice.
We are Wabash men, and I know we can. I am a Wabash man, I know I can. And that was a mantra for life. They're supposed to say that when the baby's sick, when they lost their job, going through a divorce, and it, you know, hopefully some people said it helped. You know,
I like that idea.
I got a
Life
professor.
mantra.
There's some other people out there I haven't heard from. I want to hear somebody.
I love that.
Hey,
Thomas.
Hey, Coach.
There's a good
Hey,
runner. Now,
Professor.
I think he's a vegetarian.
Yeah.
I never heard of a runner that was but yeah, I was teasing you the other night.
Yeah.
I also want to shout out Tom. He is my colleague, sort of. He is our advancement student worker. So Tom and I have the pleasure of working together, and you know, it's nice to see him here too.
Yeah.
He's a tough competitor.
Yeah. I am now. I think what Coach Morgan said about running your own race and what you picked up on, Professor, is really important because the team right now, we've had one guy who is a junior and he has not ran a single race yet because he does not know how to run his own race and run his easy days.
Wow.
And he's injury after injury after injury. He just doesn't, he comes back after 2 months of not running and running 6:30, 6:40s on his easy day, and it just doesn't work. And I think that's one of the most important things. And it's really applicable to life as well, because I mean, my experience, I went to IU for a year, tried to force myself into that. And then I came here and tried to force myself into the major of economics, and it just wasn't built for either of those. And luckily I found philosophy is a good major in running and found my family through that. And that's my own race. And you can think of that in your own life as well, finding your own race. Yeah.
I like that. I like that feeling, especially like I see people, this is me being a little petty, but I like it when I'm like looking on Strava and I see people's workouts who are like much faster than mine, but then I like beat them in the race. And I'm like, you shouldn't have worked that hard.
They left it on the track.
Exactly.
Yeah, that happens.
Strava, I don't know if you all use Strava. It's like the app where you can have a community where people can see how you're doing, and you can kind of keep track of your own running. But the danger is that you're doing it just for the ego, to see other people see what you're doing, which is a way to not run your own race altogether when you're not thinking about what do I need. You don't run that. Sometimes you just need a kind of embarrassingly slow recovery day and just be like, that's what I needed.
Yeah.
Dr. Trott, I use Strava extensively.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Do you avoid the doing it for pride?
No, it's just so that I know what they're running, because I've got 20 runners in different
Sure.
cities and everything. I had no way to do it other
Sure.
than that. It's very, very helpful tool.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I like it.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah.
I thank you for this talk. I'm actually running the Chicago Marathon on
Oh,
next Sunday.
Enjoy.
So yeah, this will be my first and only.
Exciting.
So I hope it will be my.
I don't know.
My
Speak
goal
too
is to
soon.
finish, and that's it. And I'm 50, and I'm 53. So I appreciate the talk about older women runners as well.
That's
That's
exciting.
good.
How's the training been?
Hard. I'm in Bloomington, so it's hilly.
Good for
And
you.
I did one 20 miler because I did the very beginning
Mhm.
training. So I'm now, I did 12 last Sunday, and I'll do 8 this Sunday,
Mhm.
and then 8, I think 5, and then 3, and then the race.
Well, I hope that
So-
you cherish that crossing the start line.
Yeah.
that
Well,
you
my
have
goal
that
was
excitement.
my goal was to get to the start without an injury. So I think I'm about there. So
Good.
thank you.
Well, I think we have maybe 1 more minute left.
Yeah.
So I would just say in conclusion that I do think one of the great aspects of running is that it does seem like it becomes about what you can do when you're at the start line, but it really is a community sport. I really like that about it. I like
Yeah.
how much you can connect to other people. So Thomas is my student in 2 classes. We talk about running all the time. I feel like I know Thomas better because we can talk about something that's very important. I mean, I feel like I'm committed and excited about something, and I kind of feel like I know something about him because he is too, in a way that we can
Yeah.
share something. And I think that builds community in a way that it's very exciting to me. I think it's important. So I appreciate you all coming because I think
I
this
have
is
one
also that
question before we
community
leave.
building.
I have one question as a philosopher.
Uh,
Who said that what a shame it is for man to grow old without ever knowing the strength and beauty his body is capable?
I don't know. I like the line from Spinoza where Spinoza says we do not yet know what a body can do, which maybe is kind of like that.
Yeah.
But I like it because it kind of tells you like, we're still searching out the limits, like that line from Job. And I think like Eliud Kipchoge is this like exemplar of this, like we are searching out the limits. It makes me feel like, wow, human beings are just amazing.
He is, and he's a very philosophical person too. If you read what he writes and stuff like that, so you hit the nail on the head. This is a fantastic program. I hope we can do it again sometime.
Well, thanks, Art. It's really good to meet you.
Nice to meet everybody here and hear what their
Thank you.
thoughts. It's very, very important. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Trott, and thank you for all of you for attending tonight.